we are going to move into talking about the Part D event files. So the Part D event files are where we get information about the drug fills that have happened. And here we go. All right. So this is segment C that we're moving into. And we're first going to talk about how the data come into the research files that we can request. So this is now the PDE data, and this is where they come from and how they're processed in order for us to receive them as researchers. So I'm going to be displaying my bias here because I came into Medicare administrative data before the Medicare Part D program. I hadn't worked with pharmacy data before, and I was really used to the claims system. So claims, the Centers for Medicare and Medicare Services processes a bill, and that's how we get to see the claims information. The PDE data are different. They're events, they're not claims. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of some of the processing that happens and the data system that CMS maintains. And that might feel really like a weird tidbit to give you, but if you're looking for information about, how are the data processed, it's kind of nice to know those names. Those are handy to pop into search engines. And then we'll talk about just kind of the source of the data. So when we talk about claims, again, we're talking about a bill that's being processed. It's pretty direct. The healthcare provider sends the bill to CMS. CMS decides whether or not it should be paid, how it should be paid, returns a payment, and then we see that claim. Providers are reimbursed per claim based on the service that they billed. So this is, if you've taken one of our other workshops, you've kind of seen this before, that the provider treats the beneficiary, sends it to the Medicare administrative contractor, and they enter the claim into the system. It all gets paid. It gets into the system that will generate research files for us in the long run. But the primary purpose, again, is payment. It's not research. For an event, this is actually a description of what happened rather than a direct observation. So when someone goes to the pharmacy counter, we don't get information on the claim. It's the event, it's the fill itself. We get a description of what happened during the fill. So it actually has post-transaction adjustments between the plan and the pharmacy, any plan-to-plan adjustments for someone that maybe switched their enrollment. We get plan to CMS adjustments if it's a demonstration project and CMS is coming in to help with some of the costs. And then plans have 6 months to submit event records to CMS. So it's not an instantaneous, every day they're collecting all of the fills that happened that day. So again, we have someone that has received a prescription from somewhere. Presumably they've had a clinical encounter, and then they go to the pharmacy. The pharmacy, when they will be contacting the plan. This is kind of something that happens if you've ever had a prescription filled. You know that they right away can tell you what copayment you need to do. They're contacting your plan to understand kind of how this should be paid and how it's covered. And then the pharmacy submits a claim via the NCPDP form. And so that's a standard format that pharmacies all use. And then that goes to the Part D plan, the private Part D plan, and they will biweekly or monthly submit to CMS. Now it says biweekly or monthly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're submitting from the previous 2 weeks. They've done some work, and so they're submitting whatever they have done for that time period, either biweekly or monthly. And then it goes through the CMS prescription drug front-end processing system and into the drug data processing system. There's a web page you can go to that it's not this particular web page is about Part D, but the kind of the CCSQ or CCCS is responsible for kind of interacting with private plans, and there's lots of information on there. Once it gets through these systems, it will go into the integrated data repository. CCW, who is that other CMS contractor, the Chronic Conditions Warehouse, they create the Part D event file based on the information in the IDR, and then they do processing that needs to be done for researchers, making sure that the identifiers, when they when you request it, they're making sure you have the correct Benny ID, all of that. So it's the chronic conditions warehouse that creates the research file that we receive from CMS. They collect the variables, they encrypt what needs to be encrypted, they derive some variables like the benefit phase variable that we talked about. And then they create something called the Part D event ID, the PDE ID. This is a unique identifier for each record in the PDE file. So remember, the unit of analysis is prescription drug event. So that's why we have a PDE ID. There will be multiple prescription drug events for most beneficiaries. And you can use the PDE ID to link to some of the characteristics files if you need to, like there's a crosswalk to get to from the PDE to the formulary files, for example. So this is a created variable, but it's useful for us. And then once they've created the data, the researcher, if you're a researcher, you are going to want to request it, and you kind of start over here at a different point. You will submit a CMS data access request, and as we've noted, you have to kind of indicate which which files you're interested in. Further, for the PDE, you actually have to say which variables you're interested in and why you need them for your research study. That's part of the whole request process. ResDAC helps with that. So you can contact ResDAC if you have any questions about the request process, and then you send your request to us and we pass it along to CMS. And then, once it's approved, it needs privacy board approval, and you got to make sure that it's all approved and paid for. Then you can receive the data from CCW. So you don't get it from ResDAC, you get it from CCW. And then I guess that's all with the process for the PDE or the Part D data. I will talk a little bit now about ResDAC, how we are here to help. Our mission is to help CMS increase the number of researchers skilled in accessing and using CMS databases for studies of Medicare and Medicaid programs and beneficiaries. So we're here to kind of help you get access to the data, but also help you use the data. We have an assistance desk where we have technical and executive advisors. Our technical advisors answer if you call the help desk or you type in an email question. They'll get back to you about what's in the data. I'm seeing this weird thing. How do I understand this? They're there for that. The executive advisors are there for all of the really minute details about what needs to be done in order to check all the boxes to request the data. And then we work from when you first start, like how am I going to access or how am I going to request the data, all the way to once you've got the data, how are you going to use it? And then our assistance desk works directly with our website as well. We have these workshops to help people kind of get their bearings in the data, learn more about how to use it. And I see a question about workshops, so good that we have this slide here. We do have Medicaid workshops as well. The next one will probably be next spring, I would guess. And then we have, the original Medicare data workshops, and we also have an encounter data workshop. So in addition to the Part D workshop. And then we have our website, which you can go to. We have the request process on there if you want more information about that. Any forms you need, anything you need to know about how to manage a DUA if you already have it. We have a page that gives you what data is available right now, which years of data. There are workshop recordings, knowledge base articles for some really, if you're like, how do I identify emergency room visits? You can go and see if we have a knowledge base article to help you with that. And we have just some videos that aren't full workshops, but they are on specific topics like assessment data that's available from Centers for Medicare and Medicare Services, for example. And then if you want to contact ResDAC, you can give us a call. We have a help desk there'll be somebody to answer the phone or to get back to you. We have an email address that you can contact, and you can go to our website for more information. Some resources that you might want after learning about Part D event, how that all works. If you want the the record layout for what the research file actually contains, you can go to ccwdata.org. They have data dictionaries, so you can go and see what am I getting when I go to the prescription drug event file. We also have this on the ResDAC webpage as well. And then we have the NCPDP reference manual. So this is what pharmacies use to send their data to the plan. It's a standard that they all use, so you can get more information about that. And then the drug data processing system. There's information on the CSSC webpage to get, how are the data then, entered into the DDPS in order to eventually end up in the IDR and the research files.